This episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast is proudly presented by Equitable Bank, Canada's challenger bank and platinum preferred partner of a Better Way Mortgage Group. As a leading lender in the Canadian mortgage space, Equitable Bank specializes in tailored mortgage solutions, including commercial mortgages, reverse mortgages, and best-in-class options for self-employed borrowers and investors. Their innovative products like home equity lines of credit and commercial lending solutions deliver competitive rates and exceptional service to meet unique financial goals. Connect with your BDM to learn more at equitablebank.ca. Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by a Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with a Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast with special guest Damon Knights, Vice President of Sales and Distribution at EQ Bank. This is another iteration of our series Behind the Lender, and of course we're going to be covering everything Equitable Bank, and we're going to get into some of the leadership and the behind the scenes through Damon and all the good things that are going on at EQ Bank. They are certainly one of our top partners at Better Way Mortgage Group. We have just a fantastic relationship with literally everyone from the top down at that institution. We've had the ability to spend time at the head office in Toronto. To get that behind the scenes look was really special for us. And part of what I want to chat about today is just, being able to provide that lens to our listeners. So yeah, really looking forward to jumping into this. And Damon, thank you for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah,
awesome, man. To start off is really just about yourself and, kind of your career path, professional journey. It's an extensive one in the Canadian finance space, especially, the banking and lending side. Maybe we can just start there. Where did you get started and how did you get where you are now?
Yeah. So can you believe it's been 20 years in banking for me? It's because I shaved today, but let me tell you, there's a lot of gray. 20 years in banking, and it's been an incredible ride since moving to Toronto from Montreal. Started out after business school working for the Toronto Stock Exchange and doing strategy for one of the executives there, who ended up becoming the president of Reservoir Trust Company based out of Calgary. Yep. And that was my foray into the broker space, partially focused on deposits initially, and then learning about the mortgage broker space. And at the time, and so again, 20 years ago, the penetration of mortgage brokers in mortgage origination was like 7-8%. And so my next job after that was working for one of the big 5 banks in their product strategy group, doing some consulting on prepaid credit cards and moving on to term investments, GICs, Salesforce strategy, and then getting into mortgages for the last 4 years. And what was interesting is when I took over the mortgage group, we'd look at these consultant reports and we'd see, the mortgage broker channel being, 7, 8, 9% depending on the year, and it's just like this mortgage broker thing is going to go away. And looking at the channel today is incredible because we're sitting at 45 to 50% of originations depending on the source, and it's a testament to the value of what mortgage brokers bring to the table. So for me, it's really, really exciting. So at Equitable, started out as the head of a broker GIC, so that's one of the key sources of funding of the bank. And so we generate deposits through regulated dealers on the wealth side of the business. So those are investment advisors who are recommending, high interest savings accounts and GICs to their clients. And so we compete on that front from a marketplace perspective. And so had a lot of success there. Launched several new products and changed the way kind of the bank operates in that space, and that was all good. Then took over the insurance lending business and helped get a footprint in many of the large insurers across Canada, and set up an initial sales team for that group, and then kind of fast following that work with then that was 12 to 18 months, and fast following that work, took over the SFR single family residential sales team, and so it's a team of 50 salespeople across the country who are dedicated to supporting brokers across the country, and sort of we've got an externally facing team and we've got an internal team, and together we ensure that we're providing the best service possible to brokers. We're providing obviously information and support, deal support for brokers, because our products are pretty expensive. You know, from the alt side of the business to the reverse mortgage side of the business, which is a bit newer. Yeah. And so having that expertise available to brokers and agents across the country, having enough people to pick up the phone where there are questions or concerns, and then being able to accept invites to certain events and ensure that we're in front of the brokers and the agents, and ensuring that they know that there's a person behind the phone that's wanting their business to be successful and wanting to them to be able to provide solutions to their clients. And so it's been 4 years in this role. Incredible. I'm actually vexed that I have not been ingratiated into the mortgage broker business sooner, because this, for me, there's so much potential, so much growth, and we're just scratching the surface. And the bank is really, I'm really proud to be working with you, but the bank is fully vested in the mortgage broker channel.
I was just going to ask how long you've been in this kind of department, if you want to call it that, and kind of what your take was on it. Yep. I don't know if you have any stats or any numbers available, but in the last 4 years, I know Equitable's had rapid growth, right? Do you have a gauge on what that's looked like over the last 4 years?
In the broker channel specifically? So what's interesting is that it's a tough question to ask. If you think of, you're asking in a post-COVID world, what things look like. And so when COVID hit, there was a lot of question marks about what was happening, but the real estate market picked up because of the stimulus that a combination of different reasons, but supported by the stimulus that the government gave by way of payments and supports to Canadians, as well as reduced costs, borrowing costs, right? And so we saw a huge spike in 2001, 2002, and then subsequent declines, right, as the rate environment changed over the next couple of years. And actually over the past 18 months, we've seen a rebound in originations back to the 2021 levels. And so if you were to ask me, I guess from an originations perspective, we're kind of flattish, but it's going in the right direction.
It's interesting. And the reason I asked that question is, everyone in this industry saw that same wave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Within our group, we've seen Equitable, since we've taken over 2.5 years ago, steadily climb within our group, volume-wise, transaction-wise, more brokers using you. So there's obviously a lot of good things happening.
Oh yeah, and we're putting in the work, right? The reality is that what we've come to learn, what I've come to learn in my team is continuing to implement, is that we've actually got to mean what we say, and we've got to be there when brokers need us, right? And again, it's either picking up the phone or being there in person or delivering that webinar on demand. If that's what is required in order for the broker to be successful, that's what we're trying to deliver on. And so we're not perfect, but I promise we work really, really hard to be as perfect as possible.
Well, we see it, and it's interesting. You touched on insurance, secured lending like that. I didn't even know that was part of your experience. So thank you for sharing that. And that's something that's very interesting to me. It's not in my notes to chat about today, but something we'll talk about maybe offline or on another podcast. But it just goes to show you how depth your experience is through the bank, and it obviously helped you or polished you to where you are now. And then talking about the growth of Equitable Bank within our group, I truly think it's just the best people supporting us, and like you've really found a way to build such a strong team of great people that are all really, really good at what they do. And to your point, they work their butts off to make it happen. And so looking at that, like, you must have some personal motivation, within building the team and just your career in general. Like, what maybe you can just touch on what drives you in your professional life.
If you had asked me that 15 years ago, before I had kids, it would have been sort of, I'm the Montreal boy here has a chip on his shoulder. I want to show these Torontonians, right, how to get things done, is what I would have said. Since I have kids, it's all about family, and for me, that's what really, really drives me to work harder, smarter, and to be more productive, to ensure that the family is taken care of. And then once Once that's kind of done, then you can actually start having fun, right? And so family is incredibly important. The other thing is, I think about my first, so it was actually my second interview at EQ Bank. And that second interview was actually with Andrew Moore, the CEO. And he made it incredibly clear to me that there are really, really ambitious goals for the bank. We're trying to not only say that we're the challenger bank, but actually be a challenger bank, right? To drive change in Canadian banking, to improve the lives of Canadians is a real thing. And we actually literally sit down as executive team and as business units thinking about how we can be better, how we can be smarter. And for me, it's a really, really motivating work environment, and it attracts the best people. And so for that reason, again, for me, it's once you're surrounded by the best people and I've got the best people working on my teams, I've got to step up on a regular basis. And so it's incredibly motivating to be in an environment like this.
Very cool. I mean, that's a great segue into just like the institutional overview and what differentiates Equitable Bank. You just touched on like the mission to be Canada's challenger bank, and you totally are living up to that. What else maybe we could highlight from just the general mission and statement and services that you're looking to provide, and you mentioned just the new product of reverse mortgage, some of the other products that have come out in the last 24 months. Like you seem to be ahead of the curve. Like maybe we can just touch on that piece a bit and like what's next and where where is it going?
Yeah, so the EQ Bank, the online bank, is servicing over 500,000 Canadians, providing competitively priced, deposit products and also banking services online. And because we don't have, physical branches, we're able to redeploy any revenues directly into those banking services and to make sure that we're giving essentially a good deal to Canadians. And so every dollar deposited with EQ, you're making money. You're paying interest. And so that's whether it be your personal checking account, savings account. We just launched a small business account. So for mortgage brokers out there who have a small business account with a bank, the question is, are you earning interest in that transactional account? The answer is no. And so we actually pay interest in that transactional account. So where you're running a float, there's actually a benefit for your business as well. So we're really excited about that small business account and going to be working on a campaign to brokers because we got to create awareness about this for them as well. On the EQ side, they've got and when I say they, it's not my core responsibility, but as for the online bank, there's different payment vehicles. So we've got an EQ Bank card now. We partnered with TransferWise to do international transfers at a reduced transaction fee. There's a series of other changes and evolution of that business, and I'm really excited to see kind of where it goes in the future. But we will actively be working with the small business team. I'm really excited about that. When it comes to the single-family residential business, obviously our alternative businesses are bread and butter. And so that's servicing small business owners, new Canadians, people with complex credit or complex credit histories to ensure that we can provide as many solutions as possible to all Canadians. So that's our bread and butter. We spend a lot of time ensuring that our adjudication of these files is consistent and transparent and fits within our risk appetite as a bank. And also that we do so in a way that is constructive to a meaningful business relationship with brokers. So we want to turn around decisions as quickly as possible, whether it's favorable or negative, provide the broker obviously with context as to why. And again, sometimes the deal, right, or the opportunity is not necessarily best suited for us, and that's fine. But it's that level of mutual respect that we look to continue with so that we can kind of grow together, right? So on the reverse mortgage side, that's a newer product, obviously. There is an announcement coming soon around a new product evolution that we'll be making. I wish I could have given you the details here, but I can tell you you're one of the first that's going to hear about it. And so looking forward to sharing that with you. But that product that we put out there is helping to dispel a lot of the misconceptions that people have around the reverse mortgage. And, it's easier to understand. We're incredibly competitive on the fees, the interest rates, the prepayment privileges, and related penalties. It is a product that's so solid and supports the needs of the largest demographic in Canada, which is the retiring baby boomers. That even myself, I can put my money where my mouth is on this one. Even myself, I'm kind of thinking, hey, my parents are getting a bit older. What is the best option for them, right? Do they downsize and slap a reverse mortgage as a strategy on their new home, right? Do they continue to draw on their overdraw on their RSPs, or do we start to tap into cash flow in their home as well? Do we consider building an add-on to our house and let them come in with us and leverage? Do you see what I'm saying? There's so many strategies that weren't available to them before. That and I think that this product. Yeah, I might be overly optimistic, but I have a feeling that this product could eclipse alt in the future because of the size of the baby boomer demographic in Canada.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to touch on some of the achievements.
Sure.
And this one is really interesting to me. Just I would say I'm a bit more of a tech geek than most, and just looking at the banking system and the talk around the banking system migration to the cloud. And what that looks like, making, from what I understand, you're the first bank in Canada to do so. What does that exactly mean, and how does that benefit EQ Bank?
Yeah, so at a simplistic level, think of, in the past, when we had technology or a network, you would have the servers in your own office, and it would be under lock and key. You would put like air conditioning on it. You would have your own servers. Then it moved to outsourcing that to kind of third-party company, and they're really great at hosting servers. And these would be like $200,000 servers, and they would have in their own facilities. And so now but you would be plugged into them directly, right?
Yeah.
But now it's all cloud-based, to your point, right? So it's kind of via the internet. And so while the technology infrastructure is still kind of, at least to people like me who are not sort of techies, it kind of looks the same. It's still servers and such that are driving it. From our perspective, it's like internet-based connectivity. And so there's a lot of excitement around. I mean, we were the first, so we were really excited to be the first and be able to say that. But now it's switched to, okay, it's becoming a bit more and more than the norm as financial institutions and other related institutions are seeing the benefits of this type of a service and also the security that they're able to benefit from. And so much better question for my CTO, but like we're fully vested online.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think like for most, like, hearing that or maybe reading that, like it's kind of confusing to kind of understand how or what that would benefit like the consumer or the broker, at hand. But, how does that potentially give you more efficiency within? Is it more of a security type piece or is there more benefit from an efficiency internally?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both, right? So it changes our orientation toward, okay, what services are better delivered kind of online, right? And how does that now plug into our online infrastructure? Yeah. And so I actually can't say that it's necessarily cheaper to be online. That's someone else's budget, but it definitely demonstrates an orientation toward advancing our technological focus and our confidence in where the industry and the market should go.
Okay, I want to get into some current market trends and just some insights. So, looking at industry trends, let's maybe explore some of the significant trends in the mortgage and lending industry from your perspective, including the rise in digital banking and the increasing demand for seamless online services. With that, or what other industry trends are you keeping an eye on at EQ Bank?
Yeah, so we've got on the mortgage side of the business, we've got incredible team that is responsible for our operational shop, and they're constantly looking at different ways to deliver better services to brokers. And essentially, it is a conversation around digitization, right? And more recently around AI. And so, how can we deliver products quicker and more consistently to brokers without exposing the bank to any unnecessary additional risk, is essentially the question, right? And so there's a myriad of fintech companies that are helping to accelerate the review of financial statements, for example, who are helping to accelerate payments between institutions, who are helping to review customer details when it comes to KYC and that kind of thing, right? So to ensure that we are adhering to our compliance requirements. There are technologies that are, making it even easier for clients to even manipulate their documents. Just give us, plug into.
It goes both ways.
It does go both ways, 100%. It's not perfect, but this evolution is like you're seeing it every time there's an announcement around. Whether it's digital documentation or a change in operational flow, that's a technology innovation that's happening behind the scenes, and the objective is usually to help accelerate the processes and delivering better service while ensuring that we're mitigating risk at the same time.
That's actually a really exciting piece. I know AI is a scary thought for a lot of people. Is it going to take jobs? Is it, and I'm sure that there is a component of that in our industry that will be limited. But I mean, you think about a stated income file with 12 months of bank statements and thousands of transactions, and the amount of time that brokers spend, first of all, to try to understand them. And we know that most of the time they haven't actually done it properly. And then on your side to do the same, right? So I think there's a lot of efficiency coming from that. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are getting ahead of that.
Right, and your point about AI is really interesting because, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm really impressed at what AI is capable of doing as of right now. Like we've seen some solutions where, the pre-vetting of clients who are calling in can be done by a virtual assistant that looks and sounds just like you and me. Has some humor to ask, you could tell a difference, right? So it's really interesting to see that. I don't see in the near term, automation driven by AI when it comes to adjudication on the alt side of the business. What the story is and the context is so important to the decision.
Yeah.
However, it's fascinating to see how quickly things are changing, and it'll be interesting to see, where things are in 5 years. I'd love to do this interview again in 5 years and see.
No kidding.
right?
Yeah. No kidding. Maybe just before we move on to some of the behind the scenes operations, like the economic conditions, like what's your view on the current economic conditions and, the regulatory updates, borrower behavior, and how EQ Bank adapts to these changes and again continues to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so we have a broad product set, right? And so we're constantly monitoring trends as it relates to originations by client type, by region, by risk profile, et cetera. When I think of what's happening right now, it's a story about the Trump's tariffs, right? And so while we won't get into a political conversation around that, the state of our economy in the future is the primary focus, right? Because that will drive like a ton of potential downstream kind of future risks for many businesses, not limited to ours. And so what are the intended consequences? So the intended stated consequence, if you listen to just the interview yesterday with Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, it's, the focus is on the automotive and steel at the moment industries. And so those are the intended consequences. What are the unintended consequences of those changes? And we're not oblivious to the fact that there will be some unintended knock-on effects. And so, we try our best to ensure that we're making adjudication decisions with the best information we have available, and so we don't expose the bank to unnecessary risk. And to be honest with you, it's even a poor experience for the client if they receive financing from an institution that they that there were potential risks down the road that they couldn't service. And so for the sake of both stakeholders, I think the work that we do, we've got obviously our credit team, which works directly with brokers on deals, but we also have a second line risk team, and they're focused on analytics and reviews and audits and working directly with the regulator to ensure that we're paying attention to kind of what's going on, and they're incredibly competent at it. So hoping that all of this blows over in the next few months, because I would love to get back to business with talk about other things.
Yeah.
But it is obviously quite tricky at the moment.
Totally fair. Okay, so let's get into the kind of the behind the scenes. I think this is what I got to see firsthand at the bank. I think somebody mentioned I could have this wrong, but 1,000 people working at that Toronto head office. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's funny because so that's correct. So we're 1,650 in terms of total employees across the country. Wow. About 1,000 in that Toronto office, and we actually moved from that location just up the road. We just built our own.
I knew that
tower.
was under construction at the time.
Right. So we'll be ready to host brokers probably in 2026. It's a really beautiful building. Just 2 weeks ago, literally, we moved in there. So
the first one was amazing. So I can't imagine how much nicer it can get, to be honest. I didn't have this in my notes, but we were served an incredible lunch at your office, and I called it a Starbucks inside the office. It wasn't an actual Starbucks, but it looked and felt like one. Like just the dynamics of how enjoyable it is to be in that office. I'm assuming you're replicating that in your new space and the space in Vancouver. Yeah. Is that part of where does that come from? It reminded me of like a Google office in a sense.
Yeah. So our orientation toward technology and again being a challenger bank is real, right? And so it even trickles down to our design choices and how we want to host high level meetings internally with partners or even externally. And so you're right, the meeting room and the whole experience there where there's a 50-foot digital screen with the brand on it and all that, it again inspires not only our team to come in and deliver the best and be as creative as possible, but also our partners. And so that visit that you made was part of a broker series that we launched called Broker Meetups. And the intent actually was to elevate what we already do. So we meet with key brokerages, broker owners on a regular basis as a course of normal business. But, I woke up on a morning and I was like, we got to do something a little bit better here. And I'm on stage regularly saying that the best way to get a mortgage in Canada is through a mortgage broker. And so why don't we show our client base, our followers, that this is actually what we believe. And so usually those ideas, by the way, hit me in the shower. So I was like, shower. And I was like, Adam's our head of broker marketing. And I was like, Adam, let's figure something out. And literally within 3 hours, he came up with this incredible program, which included social media and included, different cuts to provide our executives with senior executives. So, our CEO, our CFO, you've met them all, group head of personal banking. And so to provide you with that visibility to ensure that we're coordinating all those schedules and then we capture it and promote your business. And so if there's ever any doubt of how we feel about brokers, I hope that it's squashed because we love the broker business. And not only that, all of the stakeholders, the intention is to have all of the stakeholders who have a hand in what it is that you do to be at the table.
Yeah.
And so you saw our amazing credit teams and underwriters and MOs and their leadership teams there. The head of credit generally would be there, reverse mortgage leadership and sales team, right? And then our senior leadership as well. So for us, it all made sense. It's tough to coordinate, let me tell you.
Oh, I bet.
Brutally difficult to coordinate.
There's a lot of folks involved in that.
Brutally difficult, but absolutely worthwhile. And we've got 4, in the SFR business, we've got a few more offices, but in the SFR business, we've got offices in Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver.
Yep.
And we, in our Calgary office, we just had the office opening party a couple weeks ago, a celebration, which was excellent. We'll be doing the same in Vancouver, and we'll be hosting. Looking forward to hosting your team in Vancouver.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. We actually had the pleasure of hosting a mastermind session with our team in the Equitable Bank office in Calgary as well. So we just recently saw that.
Yeah, another beautiful spot.
Yeah, gorgeous. So looking at the team structure and the workflow, what does a typical day look like for the underwriters, the credit adjudicators, and just anyone that we would be directly involved with at the bank?
Yeah. So we obviously at the center of what we do is the broker, and the broker experience is number one. And what we have in place with brokerages who we work with on a regular basis is we have a key account structure. So you would generally have a dedicated one, or depending on the flow, 2 or 3 underwriters assigned to support you directly in a better way. And then similarly, there's that consistency as well on the document review side with the mortgage officers. What we have though in place is what we call a squad. And so that squad is set up at a regional level in Ontario, and then in the other markets we have slight variations, but it's very, very similar concept, where we actually meet on a day in the morning and we ensure that we're talking about all the deals that are in the pipeline, and that we're ensuring that the appropriate level of communication is happening with the broker, setting the expectations on, when we're going to be able to review documents and review exceptions and all the rest of it. But also ensuring that we're able to be as consistent as possible across the system for you, to provide you with that certainty that, hey, I submitted my file with Equitable, and then within X hours, I received some type of communication acknowledging receipt. And then 24 hours after that point, the file has been looked at by an underwriter. If there are any questions, great, you have an opportunity to respond. But if there's no questions and it's straightforward, boom, you get your underwriting decision. The conditions are then put forward. There's some time required to submit documents. Some brokers prefer to submit their documents as much as possible up front. Others wait for the conditions and submit. And then we have a commitment after receiving the complete document package to turn documents around as well. And so that broker experience focused squad is so incredibly important. We literally just launched this new process 2 months ago to ensure that the broker conversation continues to happen at a daily basis, and it's at the center of everything that we do. Now, that's kind of from an underwriting perspective, or rather the broader credit perspective. From a sales perspective, we're also structured regionally, and so we've got regional directors who cover, the major cities that we cover. Obviously, our business is focused on major urban areas that are kind of high growth areas. So you're talking Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, et cetera. And so we essentially those regional directors manage both the outside and the inside sales efforts to ensure that we're able to be working together. And what's really interesting is that, since COVID, a lot of brokerages have downsized kind of their operations, right-sized, downsized, to get rid of their office space and really work fully remote, which has posed some challenges and opportunities for our team. And so we've actually changed the way that we engage with brokers in that way, and getting more comfortable over the phone, doing things remote, very, very different than we would operate before. I find that you miss out on that personal engagement, and so we still try to find a way to engage on a personal level. But you'd be surprised how many incredibly fruitful and productive relationships have just been built over the phones.
Oh yeah,
they never met.
Yeah,
right. And so, and then the broker then passes by. Oh, I just happen to be in Toronto, or I happen to be in Vancouver, or whatever, and then they get to meet. Well, it's a really cool, kind of a thing. But
there's definitely been a big culture change since COVID, like you mentioned. I think a lot of, especially higher producing brokers that are busy in their day to day. And it's not that they ever want to disrespect or don't have time for the lender, but if they can get that conversation done over the course of 15, 20 minutes and get back to their day, but spend the time with lenders in the right setting, right? At an event, at a social, coming by your office. Like, we found that was a much more effective way for us to run our business and still build great relationships.
Absolutely. And then I've heard stories of, team members getting invited to bar mitzvahs on the weekend and like all these like really personal, important events for the brokers and their families. I mean, this is a real thing, right? So it's really, really great.
Well, I mean, we say this all the time, but like, if you're a broker and you're going to spend the next 20 years brokering, you're going to talk to Equitable Bank probably 1,500 times. Like, you might as well make a friendship out of it if you can. Right? Like, try to make it positive.
I don't even speak to my brother 1,500 times in a year, right? So it's
20 years.
There you go.
Hey everyone, Dean here. Quick timeout from the episode to share with you the ABW Tuesday Mortgage Memo, your weekly market highlights sent directly to your inbox every Tuesday. This is certainly one you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to sign up now. You can do so with a link in the show notes, or you can head to joinabw.ca and sign up there. This is a high-level summary of market developments, regulatory updates, and housing trends every Tuesday. So hope you enjoy it, and back to the show. You guys have really invested in like the culture of the broker community, and an example of that is like the Chinese New Year event that you did in Vancouver. You did something similar for the Persian community as well. Where does that stem from, and like how do you make those types of decisions to invest, back into the culture of not just your own team, but marrying that with your customers?
That's a great question, because it took me less than 3 months on the job to realize that, a lot of these brokers are building businesses based on initially familial ties, then friendships and other relationships, and then kind of their broader communities. And so each person defines community differently. However, there's a lot of brokers who identify heavily along cultural lines. And so this was the first year that we pivoted away from what I would describe as generic, let's go see a hockey game, or let's go to a concert. And we started to focus on, celebrating these cultural milestones that are actually meaningful for not only the broker, but also their clients or their partners. And so what was happening is we would, we launched, to your point, we had the Lunar New Year event and many other events, but the brokers were actually bringing their real estate agent partners with them, and maybe some of their clients as well, to be like, hey, this is the bank that we work with on a regular basis. We want you to meet their executives, et cetera. Incredibly successful, way beyond our expectations, and we're going to be continuing that in the future for sure. We've also evolved as well into partnering with brokers on philanthropy. So in Toronto, we're starting in Toronto. We're going to expand it nationally, but in Toronto, we're going to be doing in a month. We'll be doing the Ride to Conquer Cancer, wow. And so we're aiming to raise $100,000. We're at $74,000 now. Partnering with DLC, M3 and the A12 and Pineapple and a large number of other brokers to pull together a team of 30 riders who are going to do 240 kilometers from Toronto to Niagara Falls to fundraise for this cause. Wow. And what we found is that the gesture, just the work involved in terms of, sure, there's the fundraising piece, but the actual mission of, hey, we're going to go on this journey, which is not going to be easy. 240 clicks is not an easy journey. But for the benefit of the Princess Margaret, people are incredibly passionate about this. Brokers are obviously people too, and impacted by the scourge of cancer. And so the mission, the mandate, it all resonates. And so we're really excited to be able to do this. And so our team, for anyone who's watching who wants to contribute, is on the Ride to Conquer Cancer website. So we're called the Brokers Conquering Cancer, powered by EQ Bank. Very so cool. Again, brokers are first, right? Yeah. Talk about brokers first, because we're committed to the broker show.
Question for you: are you riding?
I am riding. Are you? I am riding. However,
maybe we'll get Dino there.
So I am riding. However, I'm doing 1 out of 2 days because I got some kids kids commitments on the it's a weekend thing, so it's a kids commitments on the
That's a good
Sunday. There we go.
I just want to plug one thing on this same topic. An event that you guys helped us with last year, which was probably one of our best events throughout the year. You guys flew in a reverse mortgage specialist from the US to present to our group. All of the agents that came were able to bring a referral partner, financial planner, realtor, accountant, you name it. And I think we filled about 150 people in the room. We spent a few hours learning about reverse mortgages, which everyone is trying to learn about right now. But it was just a phenomenal event, and that integration to bringing a referral partner, maybe someone they weren't even working with, but they wanted to. It was very cool. We had a great feedback from that event, and I just wanted to say thank you guys for that.
No, thank you, and looking forward to the next one, right? Because that was really exciting. And I got to be honest with you, 50% of every conversation that my team has nationally is about reverse mortgage. Right, it's that big of an opportunity. Yes, there's the commission amount that brokers earn, but and yes, we're competing day to day against a very small number of competitors, but we're trying to be the best that we can be. If you compare our features, our pricing against the competition, you'll see that we're right there, either right there or exceeding, and so we're happy to partner with you to that extent, but there's so much more opportunity there.
And that deal creation thing is huge, right? Like lenders can train on policy and product, but helping brokers find more deals is such a unique piece. And that's exactly what that event was, which is why it really hit home.
Love it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just like, to stay on the same topic of the event side of things, yes, like that event that Derek's mentioned, hands down our most talked about event from last year. Still to this day, it's brought up. I think a big component was not just the reverse mortgage side, but to be able to bring a referral partner, like you mentioned with your other, community events, but also when you're talking about, the philanthropy event, like initiative and, the Ride to Conquer, those sorts of things. Like we were introduced to Backpack Buddies through Ivanka, who's our director of sales in Western Canada. And that has become a huge part of our culture within our brokerage to go and support that charity. And it's, opened our eyes to, the other markets we're in and looking to continue that. And the relationships that we built with the entire underwriting team at Equitable Bank at those events, those are deep relationships that were built, packing bags for food for kids to go home with, right? So it's like stuff like that. It definitely moves the needle, I think, and you guys are doing a great job at that. Like top of the stack for sure.
Thanks a lot. It means a lot to me, and it proves to me that there's obviously the business relationship, but these activities that we do together are related. They're all related and constructive. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
100%. And it's kind of going down the same line here is just the broker-lender dynamics. The collaboration is such a key piece, but maybe we could just touch on the communication and support from a broker perspective. Like maybe you can just discuss some of the preferred communication channels for brokers working with Equitable Bank and, the role of account managers and just how important, everything you're doing in that regard
100%.
is.
So our RBMs and our BDMs who support brokers are essentially at the front lines. And so they're there to coach and communicate around products, but also they're there to support if there are any questions or uncertainties around submitting files, because this is not a prime deal, right? So when we're talking about alts or we're talking about reverse mortgage, there's complexity. And to be honest, an agent or a broker wants to get it right the first time in front of the client. And so that advice and that coaching that we can provide around what would work, what wouldn't, and how to package and propose deals to the bank is incredibly valuable. And so that's what takes up quite a bit of the time of the team. And so what I would encourage brokers to do is to continue to foster those lines of open and respectful communication. Again, we can't do every deal, right? But we're committed to being forthright and honest with you very quickly and early on in the process. There are some brokers who actually prefer to deal directly with the underwriter. And we support that direct line of communication as well. Essentially, it ends up becoming a bit of a combination of both. But we're incredibly motivated to ensure that if you call, we're going to pick up. And again, I don't encourage midnight phone calls on deals. But the reality,
neither do we.
yeah. Thank you. But the reality is that we take pride in either taking that call or responding as soon as possible as opportunity presents itself to respond. So, does that answer that question?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, and that rolls into just some of the broker training and resources that you make available, which helps brokers understand when and what to contact you about. But again, to your point, like, when we look at the representatives that we work with at Equitable Bank, they are very available. Yep. They're very helpful.
We do have online resources on our broker, our broker portal online, right? Where there's a myriad of pre-baked marketing materials in the form of PowerPoint. There's calculators available to you. It's divided by product if you go alt or reverse mortgage, and so that's all there. On the reverse mortgage side, there's kind of a little deeper level of depth that's available to you in terms of customized marketing opportunities, and depending on who you're talking to, whether you're talking to like an accountant or a planner who you want to partner with, or you have different audiences that different messages kind of resonate, and so we kind of help support that through materials. So that is available online, but again, we're a phone call away to also answer and deliver those materials as well.
Yeah, one thing that came up, I actually wasn't even aware that our EQ BDMs, Lisa was the one that brought it up. I wasn't even aware that she was doing this, but when we onboard new brokers, an update goes out. And she goes out of her way to reach out to every single new agent that joins our team and offers a training session, right? Which is just a phenomenal integration into a new brokerage. And especially if someone's coming from a bank, right? Yeah. Like you have no scope on Equitable, even alternative lending at all. So to get in front of that person right away is huge.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, if you think of the majority of agents or a large number of agents coming from, previously having been like a prime salesperson somewhere else.
It's a different world.
What's the realm of possibility? They wouldn't know unless they're sat down, right, and coached in that way. So I'm glad that work's happening.
100%. And just getting into like service standards, like maybe explain like the metrics used to maintain, the high service quality.
So you think about what's important to a broker, and it's that they have confidence that we can do the deal, not necessarily that we will, but we can. That there's a quick enough response or decision on that file, and that there's transparency around the process, an agreement on timelines, commitments, and that there's certainty that we're going to fund. And so when you think of those buckets, we measure, and we try to measure as much as possible, the number of interactions required in order to get the app in the door, the number of communications and the timeline between the communications from the time it's in and the time a decision is able to be made, and then how long it takes to get the doc complete, and what level of additional documentations on occasion that's required, what level of back and forth happens kind of there. And we try our best to be as efficient as possible in communicating what it is that we need and why it is that we need it. So when you think of the forced use of credit, right? Especially with a BFS, we need to understand the income statement's clean. That if that work is done well up front and packaged well, it's like check.
Yeah.
When the collateral is clean and it's in an area that we like, check. When the character of the borrower is clear and there's a great story around the borrower, kind of check, right? So, these are the things that we try to get done within a reasonable time, because the reality is the broker market is incredibly competitive. You've got other institutions, bigger institutions that are competing to keep those mortgages direct, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they compete against the broker channel, but the reality is that they are competing and they have a voice.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of competitive dynamics, and so to be able to deliver a quick to deliver everything I just said in like as quickly as possible, consistently, is the mandate, right? And it's not easy, but I'm saying this very, very confidently. We've got the best credit team in the country, the most dedicated, and they're working as hard as possible. And behind the scenes, the bank is delivering the support and the tools that they need to be successful. Like 3-4 years ago, just as a point of interest, 3-4 years ago, when an underwriter would underwrite a file, there was I saw some statistic internally which said, they had to use like maybe 30 or 40 screens in order to do a deal, like different screens and different, right? Which from the broker perspective, it's like, that's not my problem. Well, it is your problem, right? And so we made it our problem. And when you talk about metrics, one of the things we look at as well is, how quickly, can we get to that decision? Can we reduce the number of keystrokes? Can we provide more integration points between the documents so that, repetitive steps can be cut out and we can get to the right answer quicker? And so again, it's not easy, but we've got the best team to do it. And we're doing it. I think we're doing it well with a better way every day, right?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Okay. I thank you for sharing that. And part of where I want to go is just to touch on the client-focused insights and, maybe share some feedback from borrowers and how it shapes operational improvements at EQ Bank.
Feedback around borrowers. Sorry, can you elaborate just a bit more on that one?
So if we think about the borrower experience, do you get feedback from borrowers? And does that help shape, operational improvements or just general decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. And so from the borrower's perspective, as soon as the application is received, right, there's documentation that they need to submit. And there's a clock in their minds as well, right? So there's a clock in the broker's mind, there's a clock in their minds. And so again, what is the overall level of confidence that they have that we're going to fund the deal? And then the truth is also, like, once this deal is funded, right, what is the experience like with Equitable Bank in terms of receiving documentation, receiving communications from us, and then through to the term of the loan. And so we have surveys that we use to gauge the receptivity of and then the impact of our processes on brokers, as well as on clients. And so we use that level of satisfaction with what it is that we do to guide where we need to focus and what we need to do better. And so we're like every quarter we're delivering new fixes and tweaks into our policies and our systems to, again, ensure that we close little gaps that come up here and there. But I guess to your point, the client feedback is incredibly important, just as important as the broker feedback in this whole thing. We've been exceedingly successful at it.
Are there any pain points that brokers can address, and pain points from a client perspective that brokers could address to enhance their client satisfaction? That goes part and parcel with.
Yeah, and so it's kind of the packaging. So understanding their client need and communicating the unique client profile and their story, packaging it properly the first time, right?
Yeah.
And if a broker can do that consistently, that's where the magic starts to happen and the confidence starts to build upon itself, not only with the client, but also with the lender, right?
Yeah.
And so tackling that complexity up front head on, whether like some people are a bit more kind of introverted and want to read all the documents and study it up, whether you do it yourself or in partnership with my sales team or the credit team, whatever it takes to ensure that there's consistency in how the deals are packaged and that they can be confident that they're putting the kind of the best foot forward on behalf of the client. I think that's the magic, right?
Yeah.
And then the proof is in the pudding, right? Once you've done that once and that client comes back to you, right? And all the time you know that you're doing something right. When the adjudications are coming in cleaner and cleaner with less and less kind of additional questions for clarification, you know that you're doing something right.
Totally. And the one thing I'll leave off on just this client focus insights piece is more so around retention strategies. And one thing that I found EQ Bank does a good job at is co-branded marketing material with brokers. And we talked about the training resource. Like there's a whole nother resource on your portal for general marketing flyers and whatnot. Is there a client post strategy from a retention perspective that can be worked in collaboration with the brokers? And is there anything, is that top of mind when it comes to client retention, integrating that with the broker?
Yeah, no, so where a broker is involved in supporting the client directly in the renewal decision, obviously we recognize that and we work with the broker to ensure that that recognition is kind of there. It's not always the case where the broker is involved in the renewal, and so you think of the renewal cycle. Maybe 6 months out before the end of the term, like we'll start communicating with the client to let them know, hey, this is what another term will look like, and these are your other product options. Again, if they're working with the broker separately, then we would recognize that the contribution that the broker is making. But as of today, it's kind of very separate from a co-branded upfront origination approach, which is the support that we're providing right now.
But the one thing I have noticed, just when we were brokering on a regular basis, and one of those deals was coming up for renewal, is the shared communication. Hey, if there's an opportunity to keep that client at Equitable Bank, especially if, let's say, it was a 1-year term and they're not quite ready to refinance back to, let's say, a prime lender or what have you. Just the ability to work hand in hand with those renewal agents can actually provide a better experience for the client in general. And I found, Equitable Bank does deliver on that piece, assuming like the client's consent is there and everyone's working together. And with that, have you seen that pick up, or have you seen, more brokers look for that opposed to, just trying to flip it to another lender?
Yeah, absolutely. The reality is that from a broker's perspective, usually the best client experience is to minimize the kind of churn and the back and forth. And so keeping the mortgage with the institution, in this case, obviously, Equitable Bank is kind of in the favor of not only the broker but the client. And to your point, where the client consent is there, we're working collaboratively with the broker and the client. But that's not always the case. And so for that reason, it's not like a system-wide program to partner on an integrated basis. But where that client consent is there, we're absolutely open to working with the broker. And we actually see higher retention rates, right, with broker-involved mortgage renewals.
Yeah.
Which is a great testament to the value of the advice that the broker is giving, and also the relationship of the broker with the client.
And a testament to Equitable, the fact that you guys allow brokers to be involved, you compensate brokers depending on term. I mean, not every lender does that, right? Very, very, I don't think anyone does in the prime space. Some alt lenders do, but I'm shocked to hear that there's a lot of clients that don't have a broker involved. Like that is a huge fail on the broker, in my opinion. Like, that's your client. You should be helping that client. You should instill confidence through Equitable in your client and help them with that renewal, and you benefit from it.
No, well, it's I believe wholeheartedly in the value of the broker interaction. I guess the reality is that the relationships change over time sometimes, and people move and this and that. So there's a lot of reasons why this could be happening. Yeah. But to your point, like where the broker's involved, it's great. It's a great thing. It's a win-win. Yeah.
Okay, looking to wrap up, I wouldn't mind getting your future outlook on upcoming trends. Especially, how EQ Bank is monitoring and adapting, such as, we talked about the open banking, real payment systems, real-time payment systems. Is there any upcoming trends that you're keeping a close eye on outside of, what we maybe already talked about?
When we're thinking about EQ Bank as an institution, it's going to continue to be a story of growth in the markets in which we choose to compete in, and we're very, very selective of where we choose to compete. And you think about, we talked briefly about the insurance lending and the reverse mortgage businesses. There are a myriad of other businesses that are being assessed for us to expand in, and so EQ is a story of growth. We're also deepening our relationships with brokers, and so this is kind of phase one of what you've seen over the past year. Leveraging social media and engaging with you and in our offices and us reaching out to agents more proactively in a collaborative way. This is kind of step one. And so we're going to be moving toward a bit more of an integrated model with agents. So we're really, really excited about that. And then there's technology, right? So we fully expect that, our processes will continue to become more efficient. Our people will be able to spend more and more time on the most productive activities that will ensure that we are providing service, processing deals, and mitigating risk for the bank. And the future is bright for EQ. And our story has been covered over and over again. We're listed as one of the top banks in I think it's global banks by Forbes multiple times.
Yeah.
We are the 7th largest Schedule I bank in Canada. I never thought, 8 years ago when I joined, never thought that we'd be able to say that. So we are a great growth story, homegrown growth story in Canadian banking, and looking forward to seeing that continuing to that story continuing to evolve.
Yeah, very cool.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool to kind of be a part of the journey in our our silo and watching it and being close to all of you guys in the leadership team. Before we wrap, I got a couple questions. I know Derek's got one as well. My last question is just advice for brokers and, any guidance for brokers preparing for, changes in the lending space, and, how they can align with EQ Bank's future direction.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, change is going to be constant in the regulatory sphere in banking. And so it might seem intimidating, right, to go through some of these kind of legal policy documents of changes that are actually on the books now and that are going to be forthcoming. I think what's most important for brokers and agents is to take a real interest in partnering and getting to know your not only the salespeople but also the underwriters at the banks, and don't be afraid to ask. There are absolutely no bad questions. Because the reality is we're in an environment of constant change, and so it's our job to help you navigate so that we can be successful and grow together. And so that would be my advice. Obviously, in terms of deal specific, package those deals properly. Let's work together, right? But to understand where things are going, especially from a regulatory perspective. I remember when I started as the head of mortgage for one of the big banks, I was expecting to be the director of product management for real estate secured lending, to be a marketing driven type of, hey, we're going to grow, rah, 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 let's go and grow this thing. And it happened to be when B20 dropped. Mm-hmm. And so my job was strictly regulatory. And I got to be honest with you, it's really intimidating reading what I would describe as regulatory legalese to understand what it means for me, right? How is it going to impact my clients? And how can I continue to grow my business? Incredibly difficult. And so I'd say keep the lines of communication open with the bank, and we're happy to share what we know and continue to grow together.
That's great advice. Okay, just last piece. This is broker feedback. So this is not specific to Equitable Bank, but I think if you asked every broker that deals in the alt space what their biggest challenge with alternative lending is, I'm confident, because we hear it all the time, timelines for condition review. And we understand the concept. We understand why there's piles of bank statements, there's nuance, there's credit issues. It's a lot different than your typical prime file that's cookie cutter, black and white. What is your feedback or outlook on this? And I know you've kind of touched on it throughout the conversation already, but do you see improvement coming in that side of the business?
So I absolutely see improvement coming. Again, it starts in partnership with brokers to ensure that the client story is packaged properly up front, right? Absolutely. But we have an obligation as well to effectively manage our pipeline, because yes, we are very busy, right? So we got to manage our pipeline properly and ensure that there's clarity up front and as soon as possible around what additional documentation or conditions need to be met, and provide as much context as possible around why. So that, again, if we do that properly, then we reduce the back and forth, and then we're able to assess the conditions and get the file complete as quickly as possible. Technology plays a huge role in this thing, because we're vetting sometimes hundreds of pages of financial statements. And so looking at the debits and credits and, you know, what's in and what's out, and that is incredibly heavy lifting and laborious work. Again, technology through machine learning is currently helping us today get through a lot of that. I have a feeling AI is going to help accelerate that even further. But that discipline around what I talked about, our regional squads, is key, right? Because where on the conditions files are falling out of our service levels, we're able to highlight that on a daily basis and ensure that these items get prioritized. So what I'm hoping is that the scenario that you're talking about occurs less and less and less over time. However, I do recognize that it has been something that has come up and been escalated more than a few times, and we're trying to step it out altogether.
And I just want to recognize as well that it's not always on the lender side. I like that you brought that up. If a broker's submitting a file with missing documentation, lack of information, it's going to be a challenge no matter what, right? So the broker has to really own their part of this to make it as clean and simple as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's it for us. Honestly, this is a great chat. We really appreciate your time, appreciate your support within our group immensely. The whole team at EQ Bank has been incredible. And for anyone listening, if you're not working with Equitable Bank or have a relationship with anyone at that institution, I highly recommend you reach out and connect. It's certainly changed our landscape within our group. I would say you're the darling of the industry in our eyes.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're proud to be the industry market share leader in alternative lending, and we're aiming to become that in the reverse mortgage side as well. Really, really proud to be able to partner with A Better Way. The growth that you've achieved over the past few years is something that is absolutely remarkable, and doing it in a way that not only is just growing the number of agents or growing the overall business, but influencing the lives of Canadians. I mean, this is the reality. You're helping Canadians to achieve their objectives, whether it's obviously getting into their homes, getting an investment property, or in the reverse mortgage case, right, helping mature Canadians achieve their financial goals. You're helping so many Canadians, and I recognize it. And to be able to put a face to the brand that's influencing that is really cool for me. And so congratulations on the success of the business, and we're proud partners of A Better Way, and looking forward to the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Damon. It was a great chat, and appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2025. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger issue many are unaware of in British Columbia. While school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during the weekends. Backpack Buddies steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy-to-prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again, thank you for listening, and see you on the next one.